Hey everyone, last month we had the opportunity to sit down with Nick Dunlap, who provided a breakdown on the proposed AB 828 bill. And just a update on Nick and what he's about. He's a senior vice president of real estate development with Avanath. He's running for Fullerton City Council, and he's a current board member of the Apartment Association of Orange County and former president. Nick, thanks for being here again.
Hey, Dan, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So thanks again for going into more detail on these legislative updates as they're kind of coming about, especially in this moving market. First off, could you provide just a little update on what's going on with AB 828?
Yeah, really, the good news here is that AB 828, as you know, was sort of the emergency rent reduction bill that was introduced by Assemblymember Filting from up in the San Francisco area. And the good news is that, because of the pressure, I think, applied not only by some of the business and real estate groups, he's actually removed the 25% rent reduction component of the bill. It does still include the forced payment plan over the course of a year, and that's a little problematic. But the best news about all of this, or the best thing that's happened, is that it won't be heard until July. So, we get a couple of months before we're going to have to, work on this one. But with the 25% gone, that's certainly the worst part of it. And so, we'll continue to watch the bill, in the next couple of months and see what happens.
That's good news. Was the scariest part of that bill. So.
Oh yeah, exactly. We're still concerned because the forced payment plan does require, a property owner to almost become a creditor in that sense. And, we don't like that aspect of it, but, I think as things continue to move, we can hopefully effectuate some needed changes there so that it protects property owners as well.
Now, are there any other ballot measures to mention?
Well, I think one thing that's important to watch, AB 828 actually had sort of the commercial, it's like the commercial version in the Senate, and that's SB 939, which was equally problematic. I mean, it allowed, retail and commercial tenants who are in fixed term leases to simply break the lease without consequence. It's very problematic, and that's actually still floating around. And so I would encourage, property owners to continue to watch that as well, to make calls and also to speak out against it, because that's just another overreach. And that's something that would have, I think, pretty devastating consequences for, both for property owners and consumers here. It seems we've just kind of gone so far, over the deep end in terms of trying to protect some of these commercial businesses that may or may not even need it. I think that's maybe some of the most interesting data we've seen on, with regard to the AB 828. So there was so much talk about, hey, are people going to pay rent? And what we've seen is that from the numbers, not just across our own portfolio, but the NMHC data has showed that, by and large, residents not only paid March, they've paid April, and they're paying May. So, why that triggers or signals to legislators that we need, more regulation and that we need to somehow do something to help. It's a solution in search of a problem. So, now, as we look at November and looking past some of this legislation that's going through the legislature at present, we do have the two ballot initiatives. There's Prop 10 2.0. That's the Costa-Hawkins repeal. It would essentially prevent property owners from charging market rents when a resident moves out. They couldn't ask, the going rate for the market. It would basically remove the separation between California and New York from in terms of rent control. So that's very problematic. You're going to want to stay tuned. That's something that we're really working on at the Apartment Association. We're going to have to put together a pretty concentrated, group of business and property owners to fight that. And so we've got a pretty good committee put together internally that's going to be out, really trying to educate the public and raise money to get our message out. And then two, we also have the split roll initiative that will be on the ballot. And so again, this doesn't include apartments at this time, but what it does, it's going to trigger a reassessment of commercial properties every other year. And that would have a devastating impact, as you know, on not only on property values, but on any number of services in California. Obviously, higher taxes are going to result in higher operating costs for businesses, which is going to result in higher, costs to consumers. And so it's interesting. It won't be presented this way, but if you tell people, hey, look, you want to charge higher taxes so that you have to pay more for everything, people would say, no, that doesn't make sense. But they spend lots of money on these marketing campaigns to somehow tell you that, hey, higher property taxes are going to help, improve the quality of life in your community. And they sell you this picture, and it's just, it's not accurate. So it's, again, that's also something that, that we're, fighting in conjunction with the, some statewide groups, the California Business Roundtable, and also the California Chamber of Commerce. And so, we'll need to make sure we keep our eyes peeled and apply pressure there as well.
Absolutely. Seems like there's so many headwinds. We've just it's like almost like a part-time job, just keeping up with everything that's coming at us. I mean, is it too early to tell what's likely going to, potentially pass, or do we just kind of got to wait and see right now and fight it off?
I have to think, look, it's hard to be an optimist with everything that goes on in California in terms of like politics, but I really think we've got a good chance at beating, the Prop 10 2.0 is what we're calling it. I think we've got a good chance to beat Prop 10 2.0. I think we've got a really good chance at defeating the split roll initiative, because I do think people will see past, these, the marketing and the creative marketing that the proponents of that initiative are putting forward. So, again, it's something we'll probably defeat this time, and, we'll have to fight it again. And so it's really important for people to realize that, in California, that's sort of become the new normal. It's the added advocacy efforts of having to fight to protect your rights as a business or property owner, and it's strange because it's kind of foreign to, the capitalist, and society, if you will. And, the idea that, hey, look, we have these rights to do things, and we're doing everything within our rights as business and property owners. And yet, you have legislators kind of coming into the game midstream and trying to change the rules. And so it's really important to push back and fight and let people know, hey, this has a real serious effect or impact on our business and our industry. And, you can't do this because, it's a lot of times it's educating these people that just don't understand because they haven't been there and haven't done that.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. Well, keep doing what you're doing. Keep providing us updates on all this stuff. We really appreciate it. The entire audience does. As far as, going back to collections, you're right. We were all worried about April. April ended up being pretty much a normal month with what we surveyed. 92% of tenants had paid in full throughout Orange County ordering markets. And then May is actually already mid-May. We've already pulled information where it's stronger than April, and we've seen 94% collections in full. So now I think the focus is going to be on June, but what happens is this has got to be due to some stimulus and unemployment, generated. What happens if some of that kind of burns off and jobs aren't there? I mean, there's some worry that maybe we'll be dealing with some bumpier roads ahead on collections. What's your thought?
Sure. No, look, I think we're getting back to work. I think we're starting to see more and more businesses open now, whether it's been, legally allowed for, or people are just deciding that, hey, look, I'm going to take my livelihood into my own hands and open my business. And I think candidly, that's one of the shortfalls in the government response to this, is that they took a very quick measure to get things closed down, but didn't take the same approach to getting things open back up, right? And so now, after a couple months, people are deciding, hey, we're going to open back up and we're going to do this safely, and we're going to do it, we're the business owner, we know how to do this the right way. But I think it's interesting. I've been watching, there's a dialogue between, the Fed Chair, Jerome Powell, and also, the Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin, about, whether or not another stimulus check needs to be issued. And so the Fed is saying, yes, we want to go forward and issue another stimulus payment. And Mnuchin is kind of saying, well, hey, let's wait and see. I don't think it's needed at present. And so I think that's really interesting, that you've got sort of a differing, point of view on whether or not the additional stimulus is necessary. And I don't know, does the Fed chair win out here, or does the Treasury Secretary? I do think we probably more likely to see it than not, simply because, you're going to look around, see states that are still closed. And I think that's going to, those people are hurting. I mean, that's this whole thing. I think, we've sort of, press pause, and then it's like we've delayed our own success by not reopening, and the markets that stay closed longer, I think, are going to be further impacted. And as a result of that, you'll have people that are in need of additional stimulus funds.
Oh, absolutely. What do you think about, what's your take, and certainly within your role with Avanath, as far as market, rents? Are you seeing that soften throughout the market, or do you plan that might soften because of all this?
I think, look, we've seen some adjustments, and I want to say it was April. March 2020 rents, I think, according to Yardi Matrix, it's like the first month that the average, I think, increase was like 2.8%. And people had asked, okay, well, is that a big concern? It's like, that's a year-over-year figure. 2.8%. I mean, that's not bad, right? I mean, you're not always going to have the 3.5% to 5%. And really, if you keep up with your rents over time, that's less of an issue. And so I think ultimately, once we get back to business as usual, I think we probably will continue to see a market rate of 3 to 3.5% growth. And obviously, as you know, some of the people who have kept their rents maybe below market. I mean, if it wasn't the initial rent control scare that prompted them to kind of keep in line with the market, and it wasn't the pandemic, perhaps they'll take a look at that now. I don't know, but there's certainly a lot going on and a lot to to wonder about as relates to the market. I know, and I would actually pose the question to you. I mean, what do you think about values? We kind of had the discussion at the beginning of the call, but do you see values holding?
So far, they're holding. There's been some adjustment from pre-COVID to COVID. There's been some adjustment, but I just pulled our offer activity within our team, and we've generated over 10 offers just in the past 2 weeks on our listings.
Wow.
In total, 10 offers in total. And some of that's still the remaining 1031 exchange money that's looking to place. And some of the sellers that are out to market right now are looking to capture some of that exchange money.
Sure.
And especially, trying to pay attention to the July 15th date that was extended to identification period. So that's very important. But we are looking at a little bit more of a buyer's market right now than a seller's market. On the seller side, just back to what we talked about, strong collections, their NOI is pretty durable, and there's confidence within that. So there's not really much of an adjustment there in pricing. Very stable Orange County, good apartment real estate, those are holding. But I think some sellers realize this could be a little bit, it's probably not going to be a V-shaped, kind of action. We could be bumping along for a while. So if I'm a seller in the next 12 months, I might as well be a seller today. There's some people like that and going to market. But we've still gotten good, healthy, strong, it's down offer activity, but it's still been relatively healthy, compared to other asset classes and other parts of the world. So I think we're doing okay in general.
Yeah. Talk to me about inventory. I mean, what are you seeing? It's down by like what percentage would you say?
Inventory, I'd say for good quality assets, still very, very low. You have more or less what you're seeing is kind of non-core assets coming to market. And that's generally always, the case where an investor is looking at their portfolio, maybe selling an outlier, maybe selling a property that they want to exchange up and reposition. Maybe some of that equity is going out of state. Because of what's going on in California, maybe the money's coming back, into just a better, kind of location. So it's more of those non-core assets that are on the market. But the main, prime real estate, those properties, I think there's an opportunity that's because of what's going on in the market, there might be an uptick in some of those assets coming. So you have investors that are kind of on the fence, like 1 foot in the water, kind of dipping in like, okay, when are those assets going to come to the market? And then another group of buyers are just kind of like, let me take a wait and see approach. Let me see what we're talking on the legislative side. What's going to happen with financing and collections, and let me wait and see. But the good quality assets or the well-priced assets are creating exchanges and creating opportunities. So
Well, I want to ask you a question about that, but let's go back for a second, because I think it's interesting. I mean, people I think for a large part, people press pause on April, right? And they just said, okay, they were going to put something on the market. They said, okay, let's wait it out. And then they said, well, May's, kind of come and gone. And so I don't know, I think we're going to see, significantly more inventory or more product come to market this summer. And I'm hopeful that we'll see some good deal flow, and that we'll get the opportunity to buy, because I do think with, obviously people kind of pumping the brakes, obviously we're all looking around, and, for the people who are still looking for deals to buy, it can be tough. But you talked about something, and I think this is always an interesting topic. So legislation in California driving California property owners out of state, taking 1031 exchanges to, where are you seeing most of your people go? Are they going to Colorado? Or are they going to, Arizona, Texas, Florida? What are you seeing?
Mainly Arizona and Texas.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, did you just buy a property, Abanath, to acquire an asset in Florida? Yeah,
so we just bought 190 units in Orlando. And that's a great, great market. We think, obviously we have a big presence there, a little over 2,000 units. And so, this is 190 units, 2,000's construction, 127 a door, 12% plus IRR. And so, it's something we're really excited about. In a very, I think one thing that's interesting is, when you kind of compare and contrast, the states. Florida is a very, pro-business, pro-property rights state, and so we've had a great experience there. And I think some of the stability that's provided to business owners and operators. It's almost like Orange County, California was in the maybe the 1980s or even the 90s.
Yeah, no, there's more. It seems like there's been an uptick in the past years of capital moving out. There's a good amount of capital staying in, and the capital that wants to stay in, it's just mainly been flight to quality, back to those kind of prime assets and looking for a safe haven with a durable NOI. That's what they're going to be looking for.
Yeah.
But I think it's really looking at the opportunities given what we're all in. And, for us, it's being on the front lines, keeping our ear to the ground with, information that you're sharing and others, and certainly collections and whatnot. But as far as seeking opportunities that come to the market and helping investors, I think that's the opportunity. That's the uptick. And, regardless, brokerage, providing good information to owners and staying on the market is probably more important than ever. So being a broker, but on your side is pretty important. So
absolutely.
I think that's the most important thing. And I think given that maybe some of these assets might come up, this will be a good time to do a 1031 exchange. Instead of just selling and then going out and hoping you'll find something, you might find that right property and maybe be able to kind of simultaneously package it. So I think that's,
yeah, exactly. Because you can not only improve your cash flow, improve the quality of asset that you own, but also from that standpoint, kind of relieve yourself of some of the, headaches that you have in dealing with these ballot initiatives and some of the crazy legislation that keeps coming out of Sacramento. It's obviously some of us are, here in Orange County. And so it's, we're not going to be able to move everything, but, to the extent we're, kind of looking at how to prioritize future acquisitions. I think it's, obviously it's a no-brainer to look out of state.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. And we're as far as closings, we've closed a few properties already that were already midstream when COVID hit. We were able to keep them together and closed up those assets, but we're just starting to close next week 2 assets, multifamily assets here in Orange County that
nice.
After COVID.
Yeah.
And running it through.
Well, talk to me about that. So you got these deals under contract, COVID hits. What's your buyer's first, what's their knee-jerk reaction? Like, is it, hey, Dan, what do we do? Is it, hey, Dan, what does this mean for the transaction? Is it, hey, Dan, I want 20% off the price and, in order to move forward? Is it maybe all of the above? What do you, what was that conversation like with you, and how did you approach that with the buyer?
Yeah, there was a lot of just massive levels of uncertainty, right? And most of the deals that we had under contract midstream, performed and closed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was, mainly tied to lending.
Yeah.
Lenders that turned around and retraded and just kind of pulled back, and we had to reset and go secure new financing. And then it was much more intimate, day to day, what's going on with the property collections, reporting back to the lender, the buyer, making sure that everybody's on board. But it was a challenge to get all those assets, given a massive shift, changes from when you went under contract and removed your contingencies to, this new world you're stepping into. Some owners allowed an extension if they needed financing. There was some back and forth, but I think luckily we had two good buyer sellers on a lot of these deals where they kind of clipped in and made things, come together.
Yeah.
The midstream deals weren't as challenging as putting a property under contract after COVID hit,
Sure.
Going through inspections, starting through the lender processes that already kind of settled in. Some lenders, as kind of pulled back completely out of the market, or re-underwriting deals with a 10% vacancy factor, cutting loan proceeds. Some of those things were a little bit more challenging, but we're still doing deals. We're still getting it done. It's just, I was talking with a client yesterday. It's almost like you're doing, 3 times the effort for the same kind of result. It doesn't matter if you're trying to lease a unit, sell a property, or whatever you're doing, so it's just the time, the teams all hands on deck.
Sure.
It's really more around that,
Yeah.
Exterior appraisals. Luckily the banks are doing appraisals now. We're not having to go through a sample set of the units.
Yeah.
With inspections, we have gone through a full 32 units on an apartment building we're under contract on, and the brokers didn't go through the units, but just the main, the buyer and the inspector went through.
Yeah.
And an inspector that wasn't, in a unit for half an hour, high level things, masked and gloved, and they were looking at major systems, and that was it. But we were able to keep it going, go through things. So.
Awesome. So I have to ask, I see you got your quarantine cut. I'm a little longer on top myself, but did you do that yourself, or did you no, you got the house call? Yeah.
Got the house call with a full mask, the gloves, and made it an efficient. It's almost like a military,
There you go. Exactly. Ready for battle in today's market.
Ready to fight off these legislation, measures here. I think we'll get through the financing part and the collections. I think it's just, I'm sure we'll fight through some of this legislation, but I think that's the thing that everybody's it's just one thing after another. And I think that's going to be the thing we got to continue to collectively fight. So. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks for the time.
It was great chatting with you.
You getting on the line here and sharing your insight, and, a lot of people really appreciated what you had to say last time, and I'm sure this time as well. And let's just plan to hop on another call here, down the road in June.
Sounds good. Always a pleasure. Thanks, Dan.
All right. We'll see you. Bye.
See you, man.